Welcome back. This time we're talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The first in a series of spin-off films further expanding the galaxy far, far away. Now let me say up front, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Have been since I was a kid and when I saw the original trilogy. Those three films are just some of the most iconic movies you will ever see, and some of my favorite movies of all time. I was in high school when the prequels were released, and there's just no words in the English language to properly describe my disappointment with those movies. The first film was bad, the second film was even worse, and the third film, well, we tolerate it because it's the best of the bunch. And as far as I'm concerned, we can just ignore their existence and just stick with three movies. And we could have done that, but then Lucas sold out to Disney, and suddenly we were getting a slew of new Star Wars films, including a new trilogy, as well as a bunch of side stories. I was really looking forward to The Force Awakens, and frankly, I was disappointed with it. It was definitely a much better made movie, and it addressed many of the problems that we had with the prequels as far as the technical side of things. I just did not like the story. I thought there was too many coincidences and many other issues that I could make an entire other video on, and probably will someday. I say all of that because despite my problems with the prequels and The Force Awakens, I was still looking forward to Rogue One. This was a movie that, based on the trailers, was going to give us something different. It did not have the weight of being one of the saga movies, that it was going to be able to tell its own story in its own way. And not only that, it was tackling the first event that we ever heard about in the Star Wars universe, and that is the rebels stealing the plans of the Death Star. First mentioned in the opening crawl of A New Hope. And I have to say, I purposely waited to do this video. I could have had this up a day or so ago, but I actually wanted to wait to make sure my feelings about this movie were not just the effects of a post-movie high. Because I absolutely 100% loved Rogue One. This is an amazing movie with great performances, a great story, and just does a phenomenal job to tie into the stories that we already know, and in some cases actually improve the stories that we've grown up with. And I waited. Like I said, I waited, and I still love this movie. It may just be my favorite movie of 2016. If it's not number one, it's going to be number two. I'm almost certain of that, at least based on what I've seen so far. Rogue One is directed by Gareth Edwards, who kind of broke into the scene with his independent film Monsters in 2010, and that was enough to give him the opportunity to direct 2014's Godzilla, a film I really enjoyed. And he definitely brings a different style to this movie. It feels like a Star Wars movie, but it just feels a little different, gives us something new. It feels like an honest-to-God Star Wars war movie. And since I mentioned my problems with the script for The Force Awakens, I have to give credit to the screenwriters here, which includes Tony Gilroy, who wrote the Bourne trilogy, and Chris Weitz, whose resume includes such films as Disney's live-action Cinderella, About a Boy, and the Golden Compass adaptation. The story focuses on a young woman named Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones. When she was a child, her father, Galen Erso, played by Mads Mikkelsen, was taken by Imperial forces so he could work on the weapon systems for their developing Death Star. 16 years later, she's tracked down by a rebel operative named Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna, because it appears that her father has sent out a message warning the Alliance about this new superweapon that they previously didn't know about. This sets her on a path to try to find her father as well as save the Alliance from this new weapon. And along the way, she meets a variety of characters played by Forrest Whitaker, Donnie Yen, and Wen Yang. All the while, an Imperial officer named Krennic, played by Ben Mendelsohn, is working to complete the Death Star so he can gain favor with the Emperor. Now, as I mentioned before, just about everything with this movie worked for me. From the story, to the characters, to the action, to the direction, to the special effects, to even the comic relief. Not only once again taking note of the mistakes made with the prequels, but also improving on the issues that I personally had with The Force Awakens. The film also really gives us the first good look at the Rebel Alliance. With Star Wars, Luke and Han and Chewie, they're all newcomers. And when we meet them again in Empire Strikes Back, they're sort of the upper echelon of the Alliance. This is the first time we've really gotten a good look at the ground soldiers, the foot soldiers that are having to do the dirty work that comes with rebelling against a power like the Empire. And the story does not shy away from the fact that these people are having to make very difficult moral decisions and having to live with the actions that they take. There's a lot of depth to these characters as well as the story that we're following. I do have some quibbles here or there. I will say the first few minutes of the movie, there's a lot of planet hopping as they're trying to introduce us to various characters and then try to bring those characters more or less together so we can get the story kicked off. It's not a huge issue because the story really does settle down pretty soon after that. And there's a couple characters that are obviously CG, but actually that's really well done. I just know that they're CG, so it was a little distracting at first, but overall I was able to ignore it after a while. And that's really my only major complaints with this movie, and I wouldn't even call them major. There's just so much to like about this movie. And I will go as far as to say this is the first Star Wars film since Return of the Jedi to honestly deserve to be called a Star Wars film. There's definitely more I want to talk about this movie. I do plan on doing a spoiler-filled review, but I want to wait until after I get a chance to go see it a second time. Until then, what did you think of Rogue One? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Did you have other issues that I didn't mention? Please comment below. I love comments. I'll try to respond to every one of them. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.